Hello, steady Taurus. As July 4 and 5 unfold, you may begin to notice that something you've been quietly sensing over the past several weeks is becoming easier to recognize. Not because life has suddenly taken an unexpected turn overnight, but because your perspective has been changing in ways that are only now coming into focus. The beginning of a new chapter rarely announces itself with noise. More often, it arrives like the first light spreading across a summer morning, revealing a landscape that was already there, simply waiting to be seen. If this moment feels unusually reflective, there may be a good reason for it. Sometimes the most meaningful shifts do not begin with dramatic events, but with a quiet realization that settles into your heart, little by little. You may have noticed subtle differences recently. A conversation that lingered in your thoughts, a familiar routine that no longer feels quite the same, or an inner feeling that something is slowly moving beneath the surface. Rather than rushing toward conclusions, Taurus often allows time to reveal what words cannot, trusting that clarity has its own natural rhythm. Before we continue, I'd like to share something from the heart. If these readings have brought you comfort, clarity, or simply a quiet moment to reflect, and you'd like to help keep this channel growing, you can support us through the donation link in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Our goal for this new month of July is to reach $100 to help cover the ongoing costs of creating and maintaining these readings. Every contribution, no matter the amount, truly means a great deal. And if you're already supporting the channel, thank you for helping make this space possible for everyone. That patient approach has likely served you well, yet there are seasons when waiting gradually becomes understanding. During these first days of July, you may find yourself looking at a relationship, a career path, or a personal decision with fresh eyes. What once seemed firmly established could now be asking for thoughtful adjustment, not because it has failed, but because you have grown beyond the version of yourself that first chose it. Growth often asks us to see familiar things differently before it asks us to change them. This is why the energy surrounding this moment feels significant without needing to feel dramatic. The movement unfolding now may appear through your emotions, your priorities, or the opportunities beginning to emerge around you. Rather than forcing change, life sometimes invites it gently, allowing each realization to prepare the next step. By the time the path begins to open, much of the transformation has already taken place within you. As we continue exploring this message, it may become easier to understand why certain experiences, emotions, or encounters have been appearing in your life lately. Looking at them together could reveal a larger pattern, one that encourages you to see change not as something to resist, but as something that has been quietly preparing you for a new season of growth. Before we explore where this path may lead, it helps to first understand the subtle signal many Taurus individuals have been sensing beneath everyday life. Long before visible changes appear, Taurus often notices the shift in atmosphere. It isn't because you are constantly searching for something different. Instead, you tend to develop a deep relationship with stability, which makes even the smallest change in life's rhythm stand out. Like someone who knows a familiar landscape by heart, you recognize when the light falls differently across it, even if no one else has noticed. Perhaps recently, you found yourself holding two seemingly opposite feelings at once. One part of you still appreciates what is familiar, the routines, commitments, and steady patterns that have given you a sense of security. Yet another part has begun asking quiet questions, suggesting that some areas of your life may have reached a point where continued growth requires a different direction. Neither feeling cancels out the other. Together, they create the space where genuine self-awareness begins. When Taurus gives time, love, or energy to something, it is rarely done halfway. You build patiently, invest sincerely, and often remain committed long after others would have walked away. Yet that same devotion can sometimes keep you connected to situations that your heart has already started to outgrow. The earliest sign of change is seldom an external event. More often, it appears as a recurring thought, a subtle discomfort, or a quiet realization that the person you are becoming no longer fits every role you once accepted without question. That gentle awareness may be the true turning point. It doesn't demand immediate action or dramatic decisions. Instead, it invites you to pause, observe, and recognize that your inner landscape has been evolving for some time. Like roots stretching deeper beneath the warmth of midsummer, before new growth appears above the surface, your transformation may have begun long before it became visible, and that quiet understanding has only started to reveal itself. That is why this moment deserves your attention. The changes taking shape around you are not beginning in the outside world. They are growing from within. As July unfolds, you may find yourself seeing your own value with greater honesty, recognizing qualities you once overlooked, and understanding that the future you hope to build may require certain parts of your life to evolve alongside you. Like a garden reaching the height of summer, healthy growth sometimes asks for careful pruning before it can flourish even more fully. Life lesson. One of the quiet strengths Taurus develops over time is learning that patience and progress are not always the same thing. Remaining devoted to something meaningful is a beautiful quality, but there is also wisdom in recognizing when a season has fulfilled its purpose. Endurance becomes most powerful when it is guided by awareness rather than habit. As your sense of self-respect deepens, you may notice opportunities, relationships, and even your own decisions beginning to reflect that change. Life often responds differently when you begin standing more firmly in the truth of who you have become. If these thoughts feel familiar, take a moment to share them in the comments. Have you sensed that something in your life has been quietly preparing for a new chapter? Sometimes giving a feeling, a voice is enough to help you recognize that it has been guiding you for much longer than you realized. Now that we've explored the inner foundation of this transformation, it's natural to look at where it may become most visible. For many Taurus individuals, that place is the heart. Not because love suddenly becomes dramatic, but because emotional understanding often reveals itself after a long period of quiet reflection. What comes into focus there could help explain why recent experiences have felt so meaningful, even if you couldn't yet put them into words. As this next chapter unfolds, you may notice subtle changes in the way you experience your closest relationships. Taurus rarely rushes into matters of the heart. You tend to let trust grow naturally, allowing time to reveal a person's character before offering your deepest loyalty. When you care, you do so wholeheartedly, building connections with consistency instead of grand gestures, and finding comfort in relationships that feel steady enough to last. Yet even the strongest hearts sometimes keep their deepest feelings beneath the surface. You may express love through presence, reliability, and thoughtful actions long before you express it through words. During these first days of July, however, there is a possibility that emotional understanding becomes easier to recognize. Rather than expecting dramatic revelations, you may simply notice how your own perspective has matured. A connection that once felt uncertain could begin to make more sense. Someone may gradually appreciate your value in a deeper way, or you may realize with surprising calm what your own heart has been asking for all along. Real emotional clarity rarely arrives all at once. It often grows through honest conversations, quiet moments of reflection, or a growing willingness to acknowledge feelings that have been waiting patiently beneath everyday life. You may discover that a simple exchange shifts your perspective, that an unanswered question finally finds direction, or that your heart feels more certain about where it wishes to invest its energy next. For some, this season may bring gentle healing, as old misunderstandings lose their weight and emotional distance begins to soften. For others, it may offer a clearer understanding of a relationship that has remained uncertain for longer than expected. Whatever form it takes, clarity has a way of replacing hesitation with peace. Taurus naturally seeks emotional security, and when that sense of stability begins to return, your warmth, generosity, and quiet affection can flow more freely again. Life lesson. Love grows strongest where honesty has room to breathe. Lasting relationships are not built by avoiding difficult feelings, but by creating enough trust for them to be spoken with kindness and respect. Vulnerability can feel uncomfortable at first, yet it often becomes the fertile ground where genuine trust takes root. Like deep roots supporting a tree through every season, openness creates the strength that allows love to continue growing. If this reflection speaks to your current experience, we'd love to hear from you. Do you feel that greater emotional clarity is beginning to emerge in your life, or that your understanding of a relationship has quietly changed? Sharing your experience may remind someone else that they are not the only one moving through this season of growth. Of course, the heart is only one part of the larger picture. As your inner world becomes clearer, you may also begin noticing new possibilities in areas connected to your work, finances, and personal sense of purpose. Sometimes the same awareness that transforms a relationship also changes the way you recognize your own value, and that is where the next part of this journey begins. For some of you, the next stage of this journey may not begin with something happening around you, but with a quieter realization about yourself. As the first days of July continue to unfold, you may begin seeing your own contributions through a different lens. What once felt like ordinary effort may reveal itself as years of quiet dedication that have shaped far more than you realized. As that understanding continues to deepen, your attention may naturally shift toward another area that has been quietly evolving alongside your heart, your sense of personal value. This isn't only about career or finances, although those areas may certainly reflect the change. It's also about recognizing the worth of your time, your experience, and the steady presence you bring wherever you choose to invest your energy. Taurus is rarely drawn to shortcuts or quick recognition. You tend to believe that meaningful results are built patiently, one thoughtful step after another, like roots spreading quietly beneath the surface before a tree reaches upward. Much of your greatest work has likely developed where few people ever noticed. Yet there are moments when such reliability becomes so familiar that others begin to assume it will always be there, overlooking the care and energy that make it possible. During this season, you may find yourself questioning that balance in a healthier way. Rather than asking whether you can continue carrying every responsibility, you may begin asking whether the roles you've accepted still reflect the person you've become. That isn't a sign of pride or dissatisfaction. It is often what happens when personal growth gently outpaces the expectations that once defined your place in the world. You might notice opportunities that previously escaped your attention, not because they suddenly appeared, but because your perspective has expanded enough to recognize them. Someone may acknowledge your abilities with a level of appreciation that feels long overdue, or perhaps the most meaningful recognition comes from within, as you realize that your future deserves room to grow beyond limits you accepted simply because they once felt familiar. When your relationship with your own worth begins to change, your decisions often change with it. You become less willing to settle for situations that diminish your strengths and more willing to invest your energy where it can genuinely flourish. Like a path becoming visible in the early morning light, possibilities that once seemed hidden often reveal themselves gradually as your confidence becomes steadier and more authentic. For many Taurus individuals, this period may feel less like becoming someone new and more like recognizing the person you've quietly been growing into all along. Years of patience, persistence, and careful effort have shaped abilities that deserve to be acknowledged, especially by you. That growing awareness can open doors that once seemed firmly closed, not through force, but because you now approach them with a different understanding of what you have to offer. Life lesson. Your value is never measured by how much you've endured or how long you've remained in one place. It grows from the character, wisdom, and steady commitment you bring to everything you build. When your choices begin reflecting that truth, opportunities often start reflecting it as well. Self-respect has a quiet way of changing not only how you see yourself, but also how the world responds to your presence. If this reflection speaks to where you are right now, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you begun recognizing your own value in a new way, or do you feel ready to step into opportunities that better reflect the person you become? Your experience may encourage someone else who is discovering the same quiet shift within themselves. Yet personal value is only one part of a much larger picture. As your inner foundation grows stronger, you may also notice subtle changes within the relationships closest to home. Sometimes the deepest transformations reveal themselves through family, long-standing connections, and the conversations that gently invite us to see our own story from a different perspective. That naturally brings us to another layer of this journey, one that has less to do with what is changing around you and more to do with the relationships that have quietly shaped the person you've become. Family, chosen family, and the people who have shared your path often leave impressions that extend far beyond individual moments. These connections are rarely simple. They carry memories, shared experiences, unspoken expectations, and emotional patterns that can become so familiar we no longer notice how deeply they've influenced the way we see ourselves. Taurus frequently becomes the steady center within these relationships. Others may naturally turn to you for reassurance, practical support, or calm during difficult moments. Over time, however, consistently being the dependable one can make it easy to place your own emotional needs further into the background. Not because anyone intended for that to happen, but because familiar roles have a way of repeating themselves until someone begins to see them differently. During these early days of July, you may experience a moment that invites that new perspective. It could arrive through an honest conversation, a family gathering, an unexpected message, or simply a quiet realization while reflecting on the past. Rather than bringing dramatic change, these moments may gently reveal how much you have grown, helping you recognize emotional patterns that once influenced your choices without your full awareness. You may begin seeing certain relationships with greater compassion, understanding both your own journey and the experiences of those around you more clearly than before. Someone close to you might express appreciation, openness, or sincerity in a way that strengthens your connection. Or perhaps the greatest insight comes from recognizing that you no longer need to carry every old expectation simply because it has always been there. Family relationships often reflect the conversations we continue having within ourselves. As your inner landscape changes, the atmosphere around you frequently begins to respond in quiet but meaningful ways. Like a garden that flourishes after its roots have been cared for, the changes taking place within you may gradually reshape the connections that matter most, revealing a stronger and more authentic sense of belonging that continues to unfold. As your understanding of yourself continues to deepen, Taurus, you may also find that your emotional perspective becomes steadier than it has been in quite some time. You're beginning to see the people in your life with greater clarity, not through old expectations or familiar assumptions, but through a quieter sense of understanding. That kind of awareness often brings its own form of peace, because it allows you to respond from who you are today instead of who you needed to be in the past. When you begin recognizing the patterns that have shaped your story, you also discover something equally important. You are no longer required to repeat them. During these first days of July, that realization may feel especially meaningful. Like a river finding a gentler course after years of following the same banks, your future can begin taking shape in ways that honor your growth rather than your old habits. For some Taurus individuals, this season may gently encourage healing within family or long-standing relationships. Old misunderstandings could lose some of their weight, emotional distance may gradually soften, or a conversation that once felt impossible might finally unfold with greater openness. These changes don't require every problem to disappear overnight. Instead, they become possible because your perspective has matured. And when your inner landscape changes, the relationships around you often begin responding in subtle but meaningful ways. Life lesson. One of the greatest gifts of self-awareness is the freedom to choose a different path without denying where you come from. The experiences that shaped you still matter, but they no longer have to define every decision you make. Growth isn't about leaving your past behind. It's about carrying its wisdom forward while allowing yourself to build something healthier, more balanced, and more true to the person you've become. If this reflection reminds you of something unfolding within your family or closest relationships, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Has a conversation, a renewed connection, or a personal realization changed the way you see someone, or even yourself? Moments like these often seem small at first, yet they quietly influence the direction of our lives for years to come. Even with the changes taking place in your heart, your sense of purpose, and your closest relationships, there is still another layer of this journey waiting to unfold. As your inner world becomes more settled, you may begin noticing that the world around you is gradually responding in ways that once seemed difficult to imagine. Rather than arriving as a dramatic surprise, the next shift may feel like the natural continuation of everything you've already been discovering within yourself. When those inner changes begin taking root, the path ahead often becomes easier to recognize. There are seasons in life when quiet reflection naturally gives way to steady movement, and you may be entering one of those seasons now. As your heart grows clearer, your confidence in your own value deepens, and old emotional patterns gradually lose their influence. The choices before you can begin to look different as well. Opportunities that once felt out of reach may suddenly seem possible, not because they appeared overnight, but because you've grown into the person who is ready to recognize them. This new direction can reveal itself in many quiet ways. A conversation may help you see a possibility you hadn't considered before. A decision that once felt difficult may begin to feel surprisingly clear. An unexpected invitation, a meaningful connection, or a gradual shift in circumstances could gently point you toward a future that feels larger than the one you imagined only a few months ago. For Taurus, these moments rarely feel impulsive. You appreciate knowing where your feet are planted before taking the next step, and that thoughtful approach has always been one of your strengths. Yet life occasionally asks us to trust that steady preparation has already accomplished more than we realized. Like fruit reaching its fullness after a long season of quiet growth, there comes a time when what has been developing beneath the surface naturally becomes visible. As July continues, you may notice that situations which once seemed paused begin moving again. Questions that lingered without answers may gradually become clearer. A path that appeared closed could reveal another direction altogether, not through force or sudden disruption, but through a series of small moments that fit together with surprising ease. Looking back, you may recognize that each experience was quietly preparing you for the one that followed. This is often how meaningful progress enters the life of Taurus. It doesn't usually arrive through chaos. It arrives through alignment. The patience you've practiced, the consistency you've maintained, and the resilience you've shown during uncertain seasons have been creating momentum all along. What once felt like slow progress may now begin revealing its deeper purpose. For many of you, this period is less about reaching a final destination than recognizing that your path has already begun expanding beyond the limits you once accepted. That realization can feel both unfamiliar and deeply reassuring, because it reminds you that steady growth is never wasted. Every thoughtful choice, every lesson, and every quiet act of perseverance has been preparing the ground for what comes next. Perhaps this is the quiet truth worth carrying with you. Lasting transformation rarely appears all at once. It often begins with awareness, grows through understanding, and gradually becomes visible through the choices you make each day. Like the warmth of midsummer drawing hidden growth into the light, real change unfolds one steady step at a time, inviting you to move forward with greater confidence and a deeper trust in the person you have become. And eventually comes the moment when the opportunities you've been quietly preparing for begin to recognize you as well. Patience has never meant that life was standing still. More often, it has been the unseen season when your roots were growing stronger beneath the surface. When Taurus pairs natural patience with genuine self-awareness, steady progress becomes much easier to recognize because every thoughtful step begins building on the one before it. If you've noticed that certain parts of your life are beginning to move with a little more ease, or that recent events seem to connect in ways you hadn't expected, we'd love to hear about it in the comments. Do you feel as though you're entering a new season of growth? Your story may encourage someone else who is discovering similar changes within their own journey. Before we bring this reading to a close, there is one final idea that brings everything together. The emotions you've been sorting through, the growing confidence you've discovered, the changes in your relationships, your work, and even your family life are not isolated experiences. When viewed together, they begin to reveal a much larger pattern, one that reflects the person you have been quietly becoming, often without fully realizing it. And perhaps that's the perspective these first days of July have been gently inviting you to embrace all along. Taurus, if you've stayed with this message until now, there may be a reason. Looking back across everything we've explored, a quiet thread connects each experience. The deeper understanding you gained about yourself has gradually begun shaping every area of your life, reminding you that genuine inner growth rarely remains hidden for long. Perhaps the most meaningful realization isn't that the world around you is changing. It may be that you have changed in ways that now allow you to see your life differently. The situations you once accepted without question may no longer reflect the person you've grown into, and that isn't something to fear. It is often one of the clearest signs that your inner landscape has expanded. For a long time, many Taurus individuals have carried responsibilities with quiet determination, choosing stability even when it required sacrifice. Those qualities remain an important part of who you are, but they are beginning to express themselves in new ways. Patience becomes wisdom when it helps you recognize the right moment to move forward. Loyalty becomes discernment when you understand which relationships and commitments continue to nourish your growth. Stability becomes the strong foundation from which you can confidently build the next chapter of your life. The opportunities appearing before you are not here to pull you away from your true nature. They may simply invite you to express that nature more fully, to invest your heart where it is valued, to devote your energy to work that reflects your abilities, and to create a life that feels increasingly aligned with the person you are today. Like a summer landscape reaching its fullest expression after months of quiet growth, your own path may now be revealing possibilities that were patiently taking shape long before you could see them. If something in this reading caused you to pause, trust that gentle feeling. Meaningful insight doesn't always arrive with dramatic announcements. Sometimes it appears quietly, offering a different perspective at exactly the moment you're ready to receive it. The first days of July often invite that kind of reflection, encouraging you to notice not only what is changing around you, but also the deeper changes that have already taken root within. And perhaps this is the quiet truth these past few moments have been leading you toward. Lasting growth begins with a simple act of recognition. When you honor your own value, trust the wisdom you gain through experience, and allow your choices to reflect the person you've become, your path naturally begins aligning with that deeper truth. Growth isn't something to fear or resist. It is the quiet, ongoing expression of becoming more fully yourself, one thoughtful step at a time. If this message arrived at a meaningful moment in your life, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let us know if these reflections connected with something you're experiencing right now. Your perspective may offer encouragement to someone else who is walking a similar path. And if you enjoyed today's reading and would like to continue exploring future messages for Taurus, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can join us again. Thank you for spending this time with us, Taurus. Until next time, may you continue moving forward with quiet confidence, steady purpose, and an open heart.